This show is brought to you by Directory.com, the safest way to hire a contractor.
And we are back. This is the largest number as far as like dollar amount goes in the story today. Riley has the details. Go ahead, brother.
Alrighty, so we got an interesting story here. Headlines: Worst clients ever. This loophole kills a $441,000 deal. This case is every contractor's worst nightmare. It started a regular job and ended with a legal loophole that'll make you think twice before signing your next contract. So here's the case details. 2013 to 2014, William and Cindy Verhel plan a major home renovation. The project included a custom kitchen, a first floor reconstruction. After a bid process, they hired J.B. Sterling Company. In February of 2014, they had the contract signing. Contract lists both William and Cindy Verhel as the homeowners. However, only William signs the document. In February to August 2014, the work begins, and that's when the problem started to surface. J.B. Sterling starts work. The Verhels pay over $441,000 in installments. Tensions rise over the delays and the alleged quality issues. In August of 2014, the conflict peaks. The wrong shade of tile is delivered by the supplier, causing a big delay. J.B. Sterling reached out to let the homeowners know. In a series of heated emails, William Verhel accused the contractor of performance lapse, timing lapse, and unacceptable work to date. William instructed J.B. Sterling to immediately cease all work and do not enter the premises. A few days later, the contractor didn't show up for a scheduled meeting to discuss the punch list of incomplete or deficient work. 2015 lawsuits are filed. J.B. Sterling sues for breach of contract, unjust enrichment, attorney's fees, and interest. Homeowners file counterclaims making allegations of defective/incomplete work, fraud, breach of contract, and warranty. So here's the outcome. There's a partial judgment in favor of the homeowners. The contract was ruled unenforceable because Cindy Verhel, the sole legal homeowner, actually never signed it. Some of the contractor's claims were dismissed, but others were allowed to move forward. The case dragged on for another 7 years. The case finally ended in a confidential settlement in 2022.
Wow.
Thoughts on this one, guys?
Clay, I have a question for you. What happens with I owe a few properties, and sometimes my wife. I remember our first house. My wife was the owner. Now I'm the owner of the house. Actually, my wife owns our RV. It's weird how it works, right? In couples, sometimes it's just under one name, not the other. But isn't there a law that if you both live there, if you're a married couple, and even though house is in one name, like that's my biggest question here that I don't understand. What does it mean when one person owns it but not actually signing and another person signing? Like, how does it give advantage or I don't know loophole, if you will, to the homeowners here?
Yeah, and I'll candidly admit it's been 15 plus years since law school, and contracts were never my area of practice. But I think that the short answer is that if one of the two married is the sole owner of some piece of property or really any item, then technically it's theirs. I mean, also marital law says it's marital property, but I think for the purposes of like using a contractor, whoever's name's on the deed is the one whose signature you need, and it seems to be that's the result that we wound up with here, which is a really astounding result considering how much money had changed hands. You know, almost $500,000 had already changed hands, and then they're going to negate the entire contract because like the wrong spouse
Of
signed
course.
the agreement. That seems like an odd result to me, and you know, sometimes the law does lead to strange and wondrous like outcomes, and this is certainly one of them. But I think the lesson for us is, you know, best practices, because I doubt many of our contractors out there are going and doing registry of deed searches to see whose name is actually on these properties. I know they're not. So, you know, getting both signatures, I think, is critical. And man, what a tough way to learn that lesson for this contractor who did so much work. And it's hard to say whether the homeowners did that intentionally from the outset. I doubt they did. I mean, usually people enter into these agreements with reasonable, good intentions, like they wanted to get the work done, they were ready to pay for it, and then the loophole later on, some lawyer got a hold of it and said, "Wait a minute, she signed it, or and you signed it, and she didn't sign it, and she's the owner of the house, and you're not." Like, leave it to the lawyers to get an evil outcome. But man, for my contractors out there, like, just get them both to sign it. And for my homeowners out there, if somebody, if in a marriage one of you owns the property and the other one technically doesn't, I mean, I think under marital law you do, it's marital property. But if one person's name's on the deed and the other is not, like, man, be honest and disclose that so that we can avoid these types of disputes down the road.
Well, I feel like when there's a dispute, everything goes. Like people will
That's
do,
right.
I don't think it was intentional per se, but we also have cases where, couple gets divorced and the spouse does not want to deal with it. There's bankruptcies, there's divorces. And in those cases, I think it's extremely important who signed it, because if both of you signed, both of you are liable for it, right? Like if husband and wife signed something and even then later they got divorced, because it's the easy way out for one of them. A lot of marriages fall apart, right? Like, and you have a project here that goes for years, husband or wife says like, I don't want to be part of it, I don't want to be married to you, and I never signed that. Now what you do? And $440,000 contract will put a lot of contractors out of business, like in case they don't get my another question, Clay, too. Like, we live in digital world, we have a lot of DocuSigns and signatures, right? What's your take on electronic signatures?
I know that our businesses use them regularly. I mean, it's certainly the new way of the world. It's transitioned to that. Large, and a lot of businesses, modernized businesses, that's the exclusive way
Yep.
of signing agreements. Now, I have zero familiarity with how states are handling that in terms of treating, like, you clicked a box with your mouse. Like, I'm sure they're counting it as signatures, but I would also imagine that over the coming years and decades, as that has become the new way of signing contracts, that there will be disputes over it, and that area of case law will probably get more fully fleshed out over time. But I think my general take, Dimitri, is like, yeah, I mean, if you receive a DocuSign and you click and sign it, then you're giving your word that you're in agreement that this is the contract. Yeah, so those things are probably going to be sticky and probably going to hold, I would imagine.
So it also interesting here that Vinnet sued for oh no, that's like what kind of agreement do you think they reached at the end? I feel like it was smartest thing ever to actually reach a settlement, but 7 years. I feel like after 7 years they're just were ready to move on. But think about it. Case finally ended in a confidential settlement in 2022. Like, it's insane. So many years. And not now, another thing to think about here is when you have a financial disputes with the contractors, that's what nobody's talking about. The reason you don't want to burn the bridge, because that contractor also liable for warranty, for assisting you in cases of product materials, building materials failure, right? So if you install the roof and the roof is falling apart on year 3 or 4, nothing to do with contractor work, but if you burn the bridge, if over what, like some communication, some emails, all right, wrong shade of tile is delivered by a supplier, it's not end of the world, nothing that contractor cannot deal with. But I feel like when you ruin your relationship with a contractor on a $400,000 or $500,000 project, things happen. They can install a faucet that might leak and by Delta, and you have to go after that manufacturer, and the contractor have the power to do it. He has a relationship to do it. So homeowners do not go after a contractor too early over a few dollars here and there. That warranty worth something. Do you agree,
Yeah.
Riley? What do you think? You've been in
Yeah,
business. Your family have been in business for 4 generations. Do you go back to, like, what's the oldest warranty claim that you remember, like that your company did?
oh man.
It's got to be some. I mean, I know I sold my company in 2020, and I've been receiving, calls at the jobs we did in 2017, 2016. Nothing major, nothing big, but people will reach out to you when they have problems.
Oh yeah, too many to count. We've even gone through roofs that my grandfather did, and then my dad redid, and then I resold. The funny thing is, they're like, "Hey, can you honor the $4,200 for the roof replacement that you did originally?" But that's really funny. We run into that a lot. But going back to this whole tile being delivered and being the wrong color, construction can be messy, and this wasn't even something that fell on the contractor. This is a supplier issue. The supplier delivered. We've had this
It
a
happens.
few times
It
as
happens
well.
more times
It
than people think.
happens. It happens, and it's no fault of the contractor. And the contractor reached out to the homeowner and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know," he communicated. And so here, I think you just every once in a while, you have homeowners that they're so worried about contractors because of the reputation that contractors have had in the past, that they'll jump the gun a little bit, and they'll have this idea of who the contractor is, that they're actually this bad person, that they're out to get them once they're in this contract. And a lot of the times, I think it's just knowing that construction can be a messy process. It's not always going to go perfect. Is the contractor communicating with you? Is there transparency there? And if there is, there's nothing to worry about. So that's where I think the homeowner actually jumped the gun a little bit on that, probably created this unnecessary tension that led to this problem in the first place.
And then the contractor is supposed to show up for this punch list meeting, but there's been all this tension and heated email, so he doesn't show up. And in my experience, showing up and being able to hash these things out in person, sometimes emotions get the better of you, but it's usually the best course of action to let reasonable minds come together and figure it out.
Good point, Clay. And
Absolutely.
it wasn't just emails. It was a homeowner instructed contractor to immediately cease all work and do not enter the premises. And that's where you draw the line. I mean, like most contractors will not come back because that's the problem. All right, we have one more story left, and this one is about contractor who owes $150,000 but still got away with it. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.